You're very active as an advocate, but you're also advocates as a supporter of other people who are also living with dementia and online support groups.
Yes,
and
it's important.
It's really important. So how many groups do you sort of participate in or run these days, Bobby?
Online ones for DAI, Dementia Alliance International, I do. I co-chair 2 meetings a week. So I do one alongside Kate Swaffer. I do one with another gentleman living in Sydney who has dementia.
Cool.
And that's a special group for those of us who live alone.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Great group,
So
really.
You guys have openings. So if folks see that and we put DAI as contact folks at DAI, if you're interested in participating, recognizing, different parts of the world, it'll be different time zones, but there are people out there who can be supportive and are open to conversations. And it's closed. It's not open to people who are not living with dementia and not living alone.
No, it's open to all people with dementia. We ask they come alone without carers, so that it just gives them the opportunity to be with other people who understand where they're at. And each time zone has multiple groups. Cool. And I believe that each time zone has a living alone group. Ours is obviously the Australian New Zealand group. I know there's an English group, and I'm pretty sure there's a US group too. Super. I really like to tell you about the challenges of people like myself who live alone with dementia. It's people often forget that we have dementia. They forget that we can do things. I was a psychologist in my past life. Before my diagnosis, I retired, and I was diagnosed a year after my diagnosis. And I worked with people with an intellectual disability. So my job was to help people develop and build on their skills and to get as much independence as possible. Therefore, I am pretty good at noticing when one of my skills is failing and putting stuff in place in order to be able to work through it and maintain my functioning. Now, of course, that is very hard work for me. It takes a lot of brain power to do that. And so, although I present fairly competently, I can do lots of things. And certainly in a social situation with social cues, I can maintain a very, very good front. Which is what I want. I want to be able to keep living in the community and be accepted and do the things that I would normally be doing. But everything, even getting dressed and getting out the door to be with people, is exhausting. Everything is exhausting. And people have very little idea of the challenges that I face behind closed doors.
So I'm curious, Bobby, because you've brought up several things, and I'm really curious about them. So people make errors in thinking, oh, she couldn't possibly do that on her own, or what is she doing there living alone? Is that anything? I mean, how could Bobby? I mean, I thought she had dementia. So that whole pre-thinking that people do about people living with dementia couldn't possibly be independent, or on the other side, well, she looks fine. I mean, she can't possibly have dementia. If she does, it's got to be very mild because, I mean, she's living on her own. She looks great. I mean, she always, when I was with her, she sounded and my favorite word, she sounded normal. Well, she sure enough did, because she is. But is that sort of one of the challenges, is just sort of figuring out, people make mistakes on both sides of the coin. I mean, just either that's not safe, Bobby. You really should be looking at who you're going to live with. I mean, how are you, or what do you mean you're living alone? You shouldn't be living alone. Or, well, Bobby, I don't, I can't believe you have dementia. You seem fine, which is both.
Yeah, that's exactly that, Deepa. Very often, I mean, most people will say to me, "Oh, but you don't appear to have dementia. You don't look as if you have dementia." Not sure how I'm supposed to look, really, but that's the common saying. And I mean,
Have you ever? So I'm just curious. Have you ever asked somebody, "Well, what does somebody look with dementia look like for you?"
No,
I was just curious. Well, you're too nice, but I mean, like. Yeah. What would that look like? Because I'm just curious what they have in their heads. I mean,
yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I now laugh at them and I say, oh yeah, because we all look so typical. But in the beginning, I used to think, because I think for all of us, there's this, well, I am managing well in some cases. Perhaps I don't have dementia. Perhaps this isn't real. And you keep thinking, oh, maybe it's going to be okay. Maybe this isn't dementia. Or maybe they all think that I'm faking. For a long time, I thought my doctors thought I was faking. And I thought, why would you want to fake something like this? But, you're not faking. And, you have the moments like when I try to log into my computer that I use 100 times a day and couldn't remember how to log in this morning. It's kind of, yeah, this is, anyway.
So I'm curious with that. I mean, I talk about fright, flight, fight, hide and seek. What kind of pattern, when you start noticing, oh crap, this is going to be a bad one. I'm struggling with something I don't usually struggle with. Do you have a gut reaction to that you go to, that you have to get through before you can get back on task? Or is it just, there's a moment for you? Is it a moment, or is it a whole get back on the bus kind of thing?
As these things happen, the first time these things happen, it was the first time this morning for me for this, it's kind of, oh God, no, this
just like somebody stuck you right in the gut, just sucker punch you. Yeah.
It really hurts. And then I think I have to stay calm, because if I get upset, my brain's going to shut down and I can't do anything, because I have to be my own carer. I don't have somebody to calm me down. So I go through the process and I say, okay, just step away, breathe, get yourself a cup of coffee, glass of water, something, just walk away from it, come back and it will be okay. If not, you've got a backup plan. Don't worry, we can work this out. And I do. It's in my phone, and I could have gone through my phone and found it. But it's just the knowing that it's something else.
And sometime, and your brain also, this is a guess, but your brain also knows sometimes there's going to be a time when it doesn't come back.
That's right.
And you know that it could be this time, but it isn't. Yeah. You got it. You figured it out. Yeah. But you always know, that's always sitting there right on your shoulder, that this could be the piece that falls. And when it goes, it's gone. I'm not getting it back.
And that's exactly right, Deepa. Each time it's, oh my God, is that gone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you do get it, it's like, oh, relief.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Not this time. At least not this time. Yeah. So that's.
I do I told you so. Don't be silly. Calm yourself down. Okay. Do the reassurance thing and tease myself, because that's how I get through things.
So how long have you been living with and learning to deal with your dementia, Bobby?
6 years.
Wow.
6 years.
Wow.
So I'm doing okay. I am doing okay.
Yeah, you sure enough are. But you can look over time, I'm sure. And I'm just curious, as you look over time, can you sort of map it a little bit of things that have changed, that you have had to switch how you do it or give it up or let it slide or not make it be a primary and go with some other option more frequently? Have you found any of those things, particularly as you're living alone?
I mean, my whole lifestyle's modified now. I try not to let dementia stop me.
Oh.
I try to find a way because I know that once I let it stop me, then it will go quicker. Things will go quicker. I have to keep pushing myself constantly. One of the advantages, actually, I think, of living alone is the fact that we have to do things. You know, if something's hard for me, I haven't got someone that I can turn around and say, I can't do it. I have to say to myself, well, mate, either you do it or it doesn't get done. And so I think it keeps us functioning longer.
Yeah. Now, I am going to say, except I wonder how much of you is somewhat unique in some ways because of your background with intellectual disability training and how you brought people from that place of dependent on family members, dependent and expected to be dependent. You don't need to be. And so helping them by creating the environment and the support and the rehearsal and the rehearsal and the rehearsal to where people optimized where they were. And then you help them figure out that's as far as I think we're going, but it's a pretty far piece from where you started. But it is, and how much of your ability to do this for yourself is because of that story, that background, that history of yours?
I agree. I think I'm lucky, if you can be lucky with this, but I'm lucky with my background has given me a real advantage. I mean, I worry about those older. I mean, I'm 70. I'm coming up 72, but those older than I am, those who haven't had the background or the education and have to do it alone because people don't, the services don't get it. The services don't get it. And so, you know, some family members are supportive, others aren't. I have a daughter, but my daughter has health issues of her own. And I have 3 grandsons who are on the autism spectrum. So I've always been a support person for my daughter. So it's, you know, I can't put any more pressure on her. She can't take any pressure.
That's not going to help. It's not going to help you, and it's not going to help her, and it's not going to help your grandsons. So there's just no give in that system. You get that.
No.
Wow.
But a lot of other people that don't have my advantages have those disadvantages too. And I think of, you know, thousands of people out there who are fighting to work out how to survive, how to get on. And people do say to me, sorry.
No, go ahead.
People do say, you know, maybe you should go into care. You'd be better in care. And I say, well, no, I won't, because 1, I don't want to go into care, and 2, I'm not ready to go in care. Maybe I will have to one day. In fact, I'm most likely, you know, I've accepted that I most likely will have to go into care at some stage. Could you envision something other than the current care options?
I mean, more readily than the current care options? I mean, like shared housing, or that really doesn't have appeal at all? I'm, you know, just trying to think of, for people like you, people at some point, if I ever get dementia, I'm going to be a lot like you. And that, you know, like people telling me what to do and how to do it in a care facility is going to probably get both of us in like not good places, because it's like, well, when you get your training, come back and tell me how you're going to do my care, because this isn't going to work the way you're planning. And just wondering, do you envision what would be better options than what we currently have out there, even if it doesn't involve the government doing something? Do we just need some new ways of looking at this thing?
Look, I just think things have to be adaptable and different for different people. I think a lot of people would be happy in a shared accommodation type type situation. I've worked with cluster homes and I've watched these individuals who have nothing in common except their disability being put into a place together because they kind of match by age or by background. And, you know, the conflict of any shared accommodation is not good. And, you know, I've had two husbands. I have two ex-husbands that I couldn't live with. I loved them, but I couldn't live with them. Why would I want to live with a stranger?
Yeah.
I don't want to share my space, really. And that's me. Other people would feel differently, but I like my own company.
You're not lonely. You like being alone. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And so the accommodation, the accommodation that I'm looking at is not everybody's cup of tea. I mean, I would rather have, I'm looking at places where they kind of look a bit like hotels, really, where, you know, you've got your own room and bathroom, and you go to a restaurant for a meal, but you can go, you know, once you've been there, you can do what you want. You can go out in the garden, you can wander around, in a safe space. And I acknowledge, you know, these locked spaces are a real concern. But
I wondered about that. Yeah.
Some of us, you know, I don't want to put people at risk. I don't want to wander out into the street, into the road and cause an accident. I don't want to go and get lost in the bush and people spend hours trying to find me. You know, I lock my front door. A locked accommodation, as long as it doesn't restrict my freedom. And this is very controversial, and I know I'll upset a lot of people with dementia by saying it. But as long as I'm not locked in my room,
right,
as long as I have the freedom to move it outside of my room, I don't mind that the front door is locked and I need somebody to let me out if I can.
Do you think it's more an attitude of care support personnel, or it's just the locked door? Because I'm really curious about how much of it is, hey, Bobby, I know you typically like to go out. Are you free now? Because I could take a walk out. I can keep an eye if you want to go take a stroll. We don't have to do it together, but I could take you out because I know the door's locked. If you want to go, we don't have to stay side by side. If I can just keep an eye, would that work for you?
I think so. I mean, it's hard if I lose that understanding.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No, I mean, at the moment, I would say, yeah, that would be fine. I've been looking at places, and one of the things I've said to them is, look, I'm hoping that I don't become too distressed and aggressive and upset all the time. I said, but I know one thing will be, I will be looking to go out. I will expect to be going out because I'm out a lot.
You do it, yeah.
And I said, I asked the question, how do you manage that? Because that's a key thing for me, and it will be the thing that creates distress, and I will get agitated and irritable if you just say to me,
Bobby, the door's locked, you can't go out. Remember, you're supposed to stay in. It's like, I'd like to go out.
Yeah. So, you know, they answer they answer correctly, really. They answer in the ways of redirecting and, you know, supporting me, distracting me, doing all the things that I would say that we need to do as well. And I just hope that it goes down the line and that all the staff manage it in a nice way. It really is about convincing you at your level.
Yeah.
That of what's happening, and maybe saying, look, actually it's not convenient to actually go out right now, and I know you want to, but you know you need somebody with you to keep an eye on you now. And I will argue, of course I'll argue. We all do, but say, well, how about we go do this now, and then let's look later and see how things are. See if the weather's looking better. It's a bit hot out there. It's a bit cold out there. It's a bit wet out there.
But you wouldn't want somebody to lie to you about what it's like outside. I don't think.
That's right.
I mean, if it's a pretty day out, Bobby, and if I could, let me see if I can get a couple of folks' care done so that I can help you out, because I hear that you want to go out, and I want to help. I can't do it right this minute. I know that's making you mad, and you should be. If we had more people, we could be more flexible. And I know you're familiar with staff stuff from your past, but I just hate it for you because it's frustrating. Want to go back to your room on your own, or do you want to go out to the patio for the short run? But I promise I will come and get you just as soon as I help Mary get done with what she needs, because I've told her I'd be down there in 5.
That's exactly right, Teepa. And if you'd like to come and be my carer, I'd be delighted.
Yeah,
because that's exactly the acknowledgement of who I am, what I want, why it can't happen, and
there's a couple options. I know they're not your first pick, and I'm not ignoring your message. I do hear your message, and I'd be mad too, because before you could always do this as you wanted to, and this has got to be incredibly frustrating. I can't even imagine, and I'm asking you for a big favor. I know that. But I am. This is where I think for me it's so frustrating that carers do not get. They are asking people who are supposedly living with brain failure to be accommodating past a point where people without brain failure are not accommodating. You try to get in a line at an airport, and you will find very quickly that people are rude as all get out, and they don't have brain failure. They just want what they want when they want it. And, as you say, I'll be right back. I'm just going to help this lady. What do you mean you're going to help? And yet someone living with supposedly with the reason I have a job is not really appreciating how and say, I know exactly how you feel. I don't know exactly how you feel. I can imagine. And I would be pissed. Honestly, I would be very pissed that I can't just go out that door, because in this moment you think you're fine. I get that. And you could be. I don't know. You could be just fine, but you could not. And I know from the past, you never wanted to send people out searching for you, and you never wanted to cause an accident. And that's why I'm asking for the favor.
Yeah. And it is that acknowledgement that's so important. I think as soon as people disregard us as individuals, and they have to know us, they have to get to know us. And you don't know me that well, but even in conversation, you've picked up.
You told me. This is what we are not good at, is listening to what people say to us and taking what they tell us and building something that makes sense given what they've shared. Again, it's not rocket science, but there is a science and an art to sort of this process of becoming a carer who truly does support, not come up with my own thing for you. It's not mine, it's yours, and I'm here to support you. We have a lot of work to do.
I think it's everybody's responsibility to make it very clear what our wishes are, to make it easier for those who are supposedly making our decisions for us at that stage when we're no longer able to speak for ourselves.
Okay, so now in the States, here's where it gets a little wonky, which is, how do we determine when you've reached that point? And so this whole phenomena is often initiated by the person you appointed, even though in that moment you're saying, but wait, I feel like I'm still able to do things. And yet they're saying, I don't think you are. They can get the medical to support them that you've got dementia and you're at risk for yourself or others. And they can move that on unless you are deemed competent at that time by a court of law. This is where it gets so messy. So have you gotten that any clearer over in Australia at all about, for us, it's this weird phenomena of you determine in advance who you think will be a good decider for you and will hold those values and that plan in place and make decisions that you would have made had you been in that space, not her decisions for you, but your decisions. And yet then when the disease gets to a state, or the condition gets to a state, maybe you in that moment are like, I still want to stay here. And she's like, Mom, you can't stay here anymore. And then they can activate it. And in the States, you could end up in a locked unit.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know what's happening in Australia there for that.
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure at what point things happen. I know from my work, we would be asked to complete competency tests as psychologists to identify levels of competency over lots of different areas. I don't know whether here at this stage is a category of disability. And I'd like to think, I tell myself that it will be somebody competent testing my competency. But
you'll call them out if they aren't.
The problem is, I think allied health workers are generally better than the medical profession, and sorry if I offend people. They seem to spend more time actually finding out about you as opposed to looking at you as some sort of disease. But I think it's luck of the draw. But that stage from being competent to not being competent is the really scary part, because I don't want to put pressure on my family, my daughter, because of additional pressures. And so I try to make decisions early. I say, okay, I'm in the decision of going into care. I'm not quite ready yet, but I feel that I'm getting close, and I need to make that decision before somebody has to make it for me.
And see, interesting, Bobby, because what I would say is you may want to make it relatively soon so you can make the space your own. Because learning that whole new space and where everything is and how everything is going to be in that space, the more you give yourself time for your brain to still be able to take that in and master that. But at the same time, this is such a huge step that it's just huge to imagine this is it. If I do it now and I hate it, am I stuck? And it's like, ugh, yeah. I mean, it's just, there's not a system. And this is what I would say, what we should be able to do is say, okay, Bobby, tell you what, we're going to hold the house as it is for right now. And I want you to go try it for a month and see what you like about it, what you hate about it, because it will sort of be like hotel living, but try it out and see how it feels, because I want you to do it while you have the ability to do that. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about what was good, what was not so good. Is it still the choice you want to make or not? And see, that's where your daughter's not in a good place to do that, but it would be a really good thing for someone to partner with you in this process with you. So but I don't have any skin in the game. I don't, whatever you choose to do, that's ultimately yours to choose. But it just seems like being able to talk that through and plan it through without feeling like it's a final decision. When you do it, it's like, okay, that's it. Now you don't get to go back. And it's like, whoa. No, this is a trial balloon. This is just sort of seeing how it actually feels when you try it.
Yeah. What you're saying is exactly my plan. As I say, that's why I'm looking at places now. As part of my package, I've been given the code for temporary respite in care, residential respite. So I can 3 weeks. It gives me 3 weeks, so I can actually go and test out a place for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. But it's very expensive, and so it's something that I think. My whole plan is to say, yes, I will go in before I need to, because for that very reason, I will adjust, but people will adjust to me. People will get to know me as I am.
Yep.
And maybe I can tell them a few more things than I'm going to be able to tell them when I actually need them to know. And so, yeah, that is all part of it. The 3 weeks, the actual, I was pointing to the chair opposite me because the assessor, when she came, was there, actually said that to me. She said exactly what you said. Try it, go in and see, and, if you see whether you can cope with it.
Yeah.
And at the time I thought, yeah, that's great. But when it comes to it, I actually don't think it's very real either. I think it's like going on a holiday and thinking, oh, yeah, I could live here.
I could live here forever. Yeah.
And then coming home and getting into the routine and thinking, oh, yeah, but, I couldn't put up with that, and I couldn't have put up with that. So I actually, although it seems like a good idea, I'm not sure that it works that way so much. I also think people treat you differently when you're there temporarily.
When you're temporarily, I agree with you on that one. I absolutely have seen it. So it's more, it is like going on holiday. It's more, how quickly did your brain adapt to the space for me? Like, how hard was it for your brain to find its rhythm in that space? And how hard was that? Because that, I think for me, and this is like, if I were thinking about it, it would spell the beginning of the end. And so how much are you already convincing yourself, I'm going to give up some stuff so I can keep some other stuff at that point? And that's, this is just like that housing thing is a huge, it's a huge sort of loss of identity when you've had this identity.
Yeah. And how did, because this isn't like this, it's like it's that thing,
Nope.
It's kind of, how will I know when it's just in time? How do I know when it's okay?
Yeah.
And the problem is, I've talked to some friends about this, the friends that are coming with me and looking at places, and they're the ones that are now saying to me, because I had another couple of complications recently, do you think you should maybe be taking that step now? And even though it's been my long-term plan, inside of me, I'm still saying, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet. I've still got time.
Yeah.
What if there's another 10 years at this stage? Can I live in that setting for 10 years? You don't want to, you want to do it early, but you don't want to do it too early.
Prematurely. No, there's early, just in time, the nick of time. You're not making any big errors, but you're starting to make little squirrely ones, and the space you're in is starting to feel uncomfortable. It really is starting to feel like not quite right. It's not quite the right fit anymore. It's just a bit much all the time. Because it doesn't sound like it's a bit much all the time. It's a bit much when you decide one day you're doing this and the next you're going to see the minister and you're talking to Teepa in the first morning, and you do those things to yourself and you go, oh, why the hell did I do that? I could have told her another time. Why did I say this was okay?
I looked at the clock and thought that.
Because that's what I'd be saying. It's like, oh my God, why did I sign up for something else? What was I thinking? And I think we go-getters. You were a go-getter your whole life. You weren't an easy, I'll take one case, sure. You mean, like, if there were 5 cases, you'd take all 5 because they needed to be done and people deserve good care. And you've always been like that. So, to suddenly expect there to be a shift in you, that's just, that would be not Bobby. That's just not going to be Bobby Redmond then, when that's the case. That's going to be this other person that's coming to live in your house. And when she moves in, then it will be time to move out, I suspect.
Yeah.
Well, you've done a remarkable job of sharing. Do you find anything that you haven't said you wish you had said, or anything you said you wished you didn't? Because we can take it out.
I don't think I've said anything that I wouldn't have said. I've probably not finished bits, but I've forgotten what they are anyway. So
I think you did pretty darn good. Nothing really struck me as left out, to tell you the truth. Yeah, no, I mean, you're such a remarkable woman, and and yet I know the amount of work going on behind the scenes a bit, and I know that it's 10 times harder than it ever used to be. This little thing we just did would have just been something you did on the way to something else before, and that's not how it is anymore. And I think that's what people don't appreciate, and and you're not doing it to hide your dementia. And that's the other thing that I think people mistakenly get in their heads, that people who are like you are doing that so you don't look like you have dementia. I mean, you're just doing what you're doing. You're doing the best you can do. And it just turns out that people can't see the changes that you know about, because you're really good at what you do. And you've done it so long, it's not done on purpose. You notice when you miss a word more than any of us. And you get frustrated with yourself when you mess up a word when you say it, because your brain says, "Oh, wrong word." But you catch yourself. I mean, you're still so good at so many things.
I hope so. I hope it holds. I just hope. Yeah. I hope for time.
I mean, you hope for time. Yeah, hope for time in this zone where you're still feeling pretty much, even though it's hard work, it's doable work as long as you're careful. And there are times when you push the limit and you realize, oh man, this body and this brain isn't meant for that quite so much. I need to be a little more thoughtful. As people are on me about, you're like, don't clean the gutters when I'm not about, okay? It's like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, so my writing's on the wall more than likely. But at the moment, I'm still on this side of the fence. But I don't see that fence as one that, people are so scared of it and they worry so much about it. And it's like, so it's differently abled people, but we've all been differently abled our whole lives. So, I mean, what's the deal? But folks do get real bent on that one.
Yeah. It's people are scared.
Have you run across anybody who you would identify as not having much self-awareness?
I think we all get to that stage. Yeah. I think that's part of the process. That's part of what it is. We lose that ability to recognize these things. But certainly in the beginning, when people say, oh, she has no idea that she's got dementia, and I don't think that's true, because they might be in denial, but people very often, when I've spoken in community groups, people will say, look, I've never told anybody this, but this is what I'm noticing in myself. Do you think I should do something about it? And I would doubt that there is anybody that is not actually noticing changes within themselves. Yeah. As you say, further down the track, it's a different story. But there's a long pathway, from the time that the symptoms start to the end, and that's what people fail to recognize. And early intervention does help if you work with in the early stages, and look at ways, that there are a lot of allied health workers out there that will support us and give us ideas if we don't know how to do it ourselves. Yeah. That helps us to keep functioning. And so people need to not be afraid. It's more, if you ignore something, it's not going to go away. It will happen. And if you acknowledge it and you do something about it, then it may just extend life. Yeah.
So the thing that I notice is people who go into hiding, because I do see a lot of folks go into hiding. What I see is skills going away. I call it prematurely, because they're not using anything. They're not doing anything. They get in this little sort of cycle of doing this one little thing, but they're not using so many parts of their brain, and they're not using that ability they have. And by the time they go look, it's like it's not there because it didn't get used, and it didn't get used, and it didn't get used. And it's like, oh man, I hate to see that. So come on out, let's try some things. I mean, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but don't hide. I mean, that's the scariest thing, is people are losing abilities because they're hiding. And we've created such a fear society here. I mean, it's such a society of fear.
Stigma, and we talk about stigma all the time, but people with dementia have so much stigma themselves about their own condition. As much, again, it's controversial, maybe not say this, but you can cut it out. Maybe we have more stigma over our own disease than other people have about our stigma. And we do hide away. It's very easy to hide away. Sometimes I think, oh God, I can't, I do something that's embarrassing. My coordination's poor now, and I really struggle with a knife and fork. I'm coming from an English background where a knife and fork nicely. It's hard for me, I'm now, it's so much easier to.
How can we use a fork with my right hand? Our left, whichever it is that you switch out with that I can't do, and you watch me eat. And dear Lord, yeah. So no, it's hard to watch pieces of ourselves as good as we used to be. We're not as good as we used to be, and it's like, oh yeah. And it's interesting how when it's dementia, then we seem to be harder. That but then I look and it's like. And you used to be able to do that. How's that going for you? Haven't done that. Boy, my eyes won't let me do that anymore. And that acceptance of, it's changing. But, so it's, if I'm doing the best I can I be okay with that, or am I not okay with that? And you're not okay with it? Oh, well, now we have a problem. So thank you for talking to me for so long. I'm sorry I've kept you so long.
No, that's okay. Got to fly, but look, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I love talking to people who get it. Sorry, I've attached myself to my jumper now. I love talking to people who get it, because not many people do, and you obviously do. And I just hope and pray that I find carers when the time comes that do listen.
Yeah. And we're trying hard to build more people out there who are willing to listen. So thank you for being part of the solution, because that's what we feel is the only way we're going to change it is for all of us to be part of the solution we're looking for. And you're certainly a big part of that. So Bobby, thank you.
Thank you, Tibra. Thanks all your staff too. They've been wonderfully supportive.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope to talk to you again sometime when you're not on the run and we have more time, but thank you for taking time this morning.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread Teeps's positive approach message around the world. And don't forget to click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted.